So yeah, we have Calvin and Michael here from Impossible Finance. Hopefully they'll give us just an overview of their platform, products, and we'll probably ask some questions about just high level contract stuff as well. Calvin, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I guess maybe I'll give a quick intro on myself. Have been a big Dune fan for a long time and have been able to kind of see them grow from our very first Binance incubator season 1 in 2018. I previously led the research listing framework as well as the Binance Launchpad and staking projects, and then obviously kind of caught the DeFi wave as we were evaluating a lot of the projects in this space. So really happy to be a supporter of this program, and thanks Andrew for having me. Really excited to try and share as much as we can based on our experience writing, various student queries, and hopefully be supportive in teaching you guys a bit as we hopefully run some queries through Impossible itself. Impossible is a decentralized incubator, launchpad, and swap. For now, we're focused mainly on the launchpad side of things. So we essentially have a contract as well as some sale contracts for each of the launch pads that we have conducted. And so that is what most of, I think, our on-chain data will be kind of covering, so that we would love to kind of ideate with you guys and kind of walk through more of the different things of the different features of Dune to be able to hopefully learn more about how to grab all this on-chain data together. So really glad that you guys are all part of this program and really looking forward to being as helpful as we can. Michael will kind of be, I guess, the quote unquote point person as well for more of the day-to-day sides of things, and also is himself getting deeper into the on-chain data sides of the world. So really excited to represent Impossible here as part of this program. Thanks. Yeah, so I guess I think we've dropped a couple links into our Impossible Finance channel just above this voice chat. And so Michael came up with a list of some of the metrics that we might be thinking a bit about, and happy to answer any questions kind of going forward with regards to our product. Maybe I'll also drop a couple links into our product's front end as well, because I think it's always easier to grab data for things that you actually can see, like after trying Aave, it's a lot easier to grab Aave data. So I'll do the same for us and share a bit more on our product as well in with links in the chat so you guys can all try it out a bit. Yep. That's
Yeah,
pretty
maybe I
much.
should introduce myself as well. So, hi guys. Yeah, I'm Michael. I'm on the tech team for Impossible Finance. Super excited to work with you guys. I guess I'll be like the main point of contact as you guys are going along, like writing these queries. I do have some experience with Dune, not super experienced, but yeah, like, definitely feel free to reach out to me anytime, like either on Discord or in the channel or anywhere you would need. Maybe a couple things just to note quickly is like, first of all, we're on BSC, so that's one thing to note. And another thing is that we've already gotten our staking contract verified. I'll put a list of all our sales contracts later, but some of them may be unverified. But yeah, if you have any questions about like essentially the list you made there, what they mean, or like not sure how to pull certain things in a query, do feel free to reach out. Super excited to work with you guys.
Yep. Let me hop into where you're screen sharing as well as I can see. So we do have a few contracts. One is that we do have the swap side of things, as you mentioned, with some other stuff, and I think for now we can ignore those. If you are interested, though, our swap or that version of the swap is a pure Uni v2 fork. So if you want to test out some of your queries that you've been running, maybe Uniswap or SushiSwap, it should work exactly the same. But for our allocation master, essentially what users do on our launchpad is they stake into one master contract, kind of like how inside like a sushi or other things, there are a lot of people that stake funds all into one rewards contract. We have essentially an allocation master. And so this is what accrues the stake weight that people get. And that by having more of these kind of rewards or allocations accrued in one place, that then we can actually have multiple concurrent sales that happen in other contracts that look back towards the master contract to see how much allocation someone should deserve. So for example, if let's say we launched Andrew token as our next launchpad, and Michael and I were the two people that staked IDIA tokens in order to earn allocation into this launchpad, and we both staked one token for 1 week, then we would share essentially a 50% stake weight in the entire pool, and then we deploy a separate sale contract that says, okay, Michael with address 0xabc deserves half of the sale allocation, and then I deserve the other half allocation. And so that's how our kind of architecture is structured, if that makes sense. We do need to improve our documentation to have the full list of all the sale contracts, but most of the activity comes mostly from the staking contract. And then, yep, so right now, I think Andrew's showing one of the sale contract parameters for our IDEA launch, but we've actually already finished 5 launch pads and are in the middle of our 6th one. So we still need to update this documentation to add our 5th and 6th sale contracts later on. But if you scroll to the bottom left there of the menu, you'll see the other 4 that we do have the sale contracts provided for.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So just to be clear, you basically have this IDIA token, and this is the token that I stake, and then after a certain period of time, I can then realize my allocation in the sale, like by staking the token first. Is that like the correct mechanism? Did I understand that correctly?
Yep, spot on. So like something like a sushi, when you stake, you would earn staking rewards. Here you're earning stake allocation. So then that's how the sale contract actually grabs the data from the staking contract to say, oh, okay, you staked this much into a certain track. The architecture is very similar to like sushi farming pools. If anyone's looked at sushi contracts, where you might have pool 1, pool 2, and some sort of pool ID. We have track IDs where each track corresponds to one of the kind of staking subsets where people might be competing for allocation. So hypothetically, you might have maybe track ID 7 equals, I don't know, staking for DEX projects, and maybe 15 is for staking for NFT projects, wherever it might be. And so each kind of small staking campaign gets some sort of pie chart, if you will, and that based on how much people stake as a cross product between the time they stake and the amount that they stake, they would get a weighting that helps them determine what part of the pie they deserve.
Okay, I see. And then I can just like go to the sale contract basically and buy according to my allocation.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay, I see. How do you keep track of the sale allocation? Is it like a ERC20 token, or do you like print the data on chain? How does that work?
Yeah, so I believe what essentially happens is that we read that data on chain, and then we basically say that allocation that someone gets from the sale is dependent on, and I think we're calling in a essentially a library from the staking contract to be able to say, let's multiply the total amount for sale. So maybe Andrew token has $1 million of a fundraise. And then we grab the data from, let's say, track ID 7 is the track ID that we care about, and that Michael has staked and earned 50% of the sale. Then the allocation that Michael has is the ratio that he had, which is 0.5, right? 50% times the 1 million total sale amount to be able to get a allocation max purchase amount of 500,000. So the user could choose to purchase up to 500,000.
Sorry, and which contract am I staking on? Because I'm assuming I'm not staking in the sale contract. Am I?
Correct. You're staking in allocation master, which is the one that you showed earlier.
Okay. Okay, so it's
and
call stake here. And there's an event. Cool. And so each round of the incubator
the
has
ins and
its
outs
own.
of the allocation master.
Right. Okay.
Is that a fork of the MasterChef contract, the common one that Sushi pretty much
Heavily
initially launched?
inspired. Yeah, heavily inspired with some slight tweaks. Yes.
Okay, I see. Then the staking allocation also makes sense in my head. Thank you.
Yep. Efficiency kind of challenge, because obviously a lot of people want to invest in projects, but there's only so much allocation that can go around. So I just sent a link in our channel where you can check our debank page to see how much TVL we essentially have. We're at sitting about 52.7 million USD worth of tokens that is being staked currently. And that on average, most of our sales are somewhere in a $400,000 to $1 million fundraise, which means that users essentially have to stake almost $100 to get about $1 to $2 of allocation right now. So in effect, most of our sales are something like 50x oversubscribed. It's not great, to be honest. It's something that we're still trying to improve. And so one of the ways that we improve that is that we try to give users that have either used the product or done some other activities, such as following people on their Twitters or Discords, or jumping deeper into these projects' ecosystems, that then they can earn additional allocation via some of these other, what we call whitelisted sales. So in where Andrew was screen sharing earlier, there are a few sale contracts for each project that we launched, and that the other ones are essentially side pockets of tokens that do not take in the allocation master. They essentially have an override to set exactly, let's say everyone that qualified gets $100 of allocation or $200 of allocation, so on and so forth. So right now, I'd say average sale size is usually under 1 million US dollars, but the amount staked for each project or track may be in the tens of millions. Yep. I see some familiar faces, by the way, in the crowd. Hey, Kinjal. Hey, Michael. And if I recognize some of you but don't know your Discord names, apologies in advance.
So I don't know. This goes a bit beyond data, but how would you say like your project differentiates itself from something like what Sushi is offering? So Miso, where everybody could basically launch their own launchpad, or what Balancer is doing with their liquidity balancing, whatever, however that mechanism is called. But those are the two common ones that I see floating around.
If I could
What
just
would you say
add,
is
like, I
like the
guess our
benefit
difference
of
from
using
Miso is
your?
like normal users can actually get in, not just bots.
Yeah, I
But
think we're actually pretty good friends with both the Balancer guys and Sushi. Actually, Zero X Maki was an investor in us as well. So in general, I'd say Sushi and Balancer are both very, I'd say, developer-heavy tools. So if you're a developer, you probably know how to be able to deploy a pool yourself, or are able to interact with the contracts to be able to do stuff. I think Copper, launched by Alchemist, has also created a new front end for Balancer LVPs. That's actually also a pretty compelling option. But to be honest, I think the main differentiation is that Impossible actually works more as a kind of like a Y Combinator or a early stage startup incubator that supports the project team early, and works in ways to try and support the team to make it a better product in the first place before trying to shove it down a sale path. So the way that our team makes money is actually from making investments and long-term bets on the teams that we incubate, and also earn advisory allocations in the projects that we support. But rather than being more of like a open middleware, we actually want to be a very directional, purposeful supporter of all the teams that we launch, so that users feel very confident with the quality that's launched always. There's a lot of projects I'd say that can launch, and the good thing about permissionlessness stuff is that you can always try new things and experiment. But that when, for example, Sushi sells a bunch of sake bottles or JPEG Automart stuff, right? That is not something that necessarily an average crypto user that's trying to learn more about new projects, they kind of get a little bit confused or distracted by maybe some differing quality of opportunities. So that's kind of where I'd say we differentiate a little bit from some of these other DeFi fully permissionless protocols. It's not to say that those aren't valuable. I actually think they're really good to have, and actually help steal a lot of business away from centralized exchanges where a lot of our team used to work. But that being able to help builders of all types support the ways that they need, we think we fill different types of niches.
That was very insightful. Thank you.
I guess taking a moment back to the data for a second. I think my screen cut out earlier. But essentially, so if I query on the event stake, I can see the user that staked, the amount of, this would be IDIA that they staked, I'm guessing.
Sorry, Andrew, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so I'm saying if I query on the Impossible Finance IF allocation master contract for like stake events, essentially, then this staked amount would be, I'm guessing this is IDIA's token?
Correct, it is, yes.
Okay. And is the sale contract? I'm guessing we don't have that decoded yet.
If it's not, I can.
I believe some are,
find
but not
the-
all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's sorry. Let me find the name of the contract. Okay, so it's called IF allocation sale. I don't think we have that yet. Okay.
Cool. I think Michael can work with our dev team to be able to make sure that more of them are.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send the
yeah,
full list
right.
as well later inside Discord.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. I'm just trying to get a sense of like, all right, so I've staked it, some time has passed, and now the function do I call, is that fund or is that purchase?
Yeah, so I believe fund is more of a backend function that we use in order to, in conjunction with the project team, to be able to deploy, deposit tokens into the contract. Whereas the other function that you said is the one that users are actually using to purchase allocation.
Got it. Okay, so if I go here, let me just go through. Okay, and that emits a purchase event. Got it.
Yep.
Sorry, does the amount of my allocation, does that scale with how long I've staked my IDA token?
Yep, we call it like a cross product, or it's like a token times a block time. So staking 5 tokens for 1 block is the same as staking 1 token for 5 blocks. In the
Okay.
future, we'll try to do some more fancier math, but for now, that's the simpler version.
And I can start staking at snapshot block, or
Snapshot block is what calculates the total amount of staking that you've accrued for the sale.
got it.
There's a start staking time as well as there's also a rollover feature, which is what we use to zero out some staking times or other things if we set the rollover to 0, or also a way to do some partial rollover, as the name suggests. So for example, maybe you staked last month and we did a sale then, and that maybe we wanted to sell to the same user base, the same project, or the same staker base, but have a lower weight for the guys that were there earlier, so that they don't just kind of monopolize the pool. That we could set maybe the rollover ratio to be, say, 10%, so that they just have a slight edge over the new guys, but not something that would completely, wipe out all of the allocation. In essence, we want to find as many different ways to make the allocations be as distributed and fair as possible. And so we have a few different mechanisms inside the contract to be able to help us do so.
Got it. And they can start staking as soon as the contract is deployed, or is there like a...
Yeah,
how
I
do
think once a track ID exists, they can stake for it. But that it is always possible that, for example, last time we had like a bug on our front end where only people using like Etherscan or BSC scan were able to stake. And so we took the discretion to do a rollover, or trigger a rollover with a weight of 0, which meant that maybe like I think we fixed the front end bug in about 40 minutes. And so for the first 40 minutes, there are a lot of folks that kind of gained an unfair advantage because they knew how to use, some sort of command line or a BSC scan interface. So we actually used this to zero out all the staking weight that users had to be able to make sure that the users that were using our front end had a fair shot as well. So obviously, I think it's clear that our contracts have some degree of centralization to them, but we try to obviously use everything with caution and with fairness in mind.
Got it. That totally makes sense. Okay, so I guess in my mind, the way I see things is a track is added, the user can stake. After the snapshot, then the user can purchase from the sale
From the other
contract.
contract. Yes.
And then lastly, you call the active rollover for like, I guess, next funding round. Or next
So
track.
active rollover, we haven't actually used a lot because instead we've been just testing out new genres of projects. So we've been actually creating new sectors as we go. Just because we've only had 5 or 6 projects kind of come through the pipeline, we haven't yet needed to use the rollover so much. But the rollover was more intended so that, let's say, people that previously staked for, let's say, a DEX project, if we did a second DEX project that, it might be some interesting folks, interesting for the same folks to get a little more allocation in a related thing. So, so far we haven't had so much about the rollover. I would actually worry less about the rollover for now and focus more on the staking behavior within each track ID as they've been created.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And then, sorry, I'm hogging all the questions here. So are all 4 of these live, or is like IF Launchpad, is this like not, like is IDIA not used anymore? Like you wouldn't stake that anymore?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand. Oh, yes. So
because
the
there's 4
first one is an
tokens here, right?
exception to
Yeah.
the rule because we had a chicken and egg problem. We can't launch our own token if our token wasn't launched yet. So we weren't able to stake IDIA for the first one. So the first one is the exception and used IF to stake. The rest used IDIA to stake. So our launchpad can take in any token as the staking kind of denomination, but that for the most part, moving forward, we will be using IDIA. But I guess for correctness of structuring the tables, it would be best to always grab, essentially some sort of price data on IDIA, as well as check the address of the asset that we're using to stake, which can be found from the contract itself, and then also the decimals of the corresponding token that we take in. Because if for whatever reason someday we happen to use USDC, right, and it has 6 decimals on ETH, right, then it would be something to be careful of.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah, I'll stop my questions in case anyone else has questions.
I can jump in. Hey, this is other Michael. I saw you put a list of metrics here to be useful for people to kind of make visuals for, which is cool. I was kind of wondering too, before diving into any of this data, are there any kind of like hypotheses or speculations that you have about like how users might be using Impossible Finance? I heard one earlier that maybe users have more real addresses than bots. Maybe there's something with we were showing earlier around kind of like the time that people jump into pools. Yeah, wondering if there's any other kind of thoughts or hypotheses around there that could be proven or disproven.
Yeah, so one of the things that would be really neat would be to cross-check our Medium, which is the time that we might post some of the announcements of various launches, and then see if that causes people to either buy more tokens from PancakeSwap, or because PancakeSwap right now is our main liquidity source, or if people actually end up unstaking from other launches. That like what we've noticed is that, let's say I have Michael token and then Andrew launches a new project and then it's like announced as a launchpad number two, and these two campaigns overlap, that the total amount staked goes up, but not linearly, right? That some users just switch from pool one to pool two, or track one, track two. And so we would be really interested to see what types of behavior that kind of corresponds to. And maybe in the future, if there's more time and if some folks are digging deeper down DEX trading, it'd be very interesting to see which people that participate in our launchpad are kind of our weak hands that dump tokens right away. So if you see people, let's say, approve a token that is from our launchpad for transactions on Pancake right after our sale, that might be labeled as a maybe greedy seller, and that maybe in the future we might give these people less allocation, or some sort of staking penalty of sorts, to try and encourage more longer term holders. So those might be some other ideas that happy to iterate more with all of you on, and figure out more ways to try and get some interesting insights from this staking data.
Yeah, I think the Medium one's super interesting. I've seen, for other things I've worked on, it's like whenever there's a big Twitter announcement or some speculation of some airdrop, you see usage just spike up.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll pause there for now since we do have lecture starting. But yeah, definitely. I'm sure Calvin, Michael, if you guys can stay and monitor the Discord channels, we start looking more into Impossible Finance. That'll definitely be helpful.
Amazing. Yeah, really appreciate all of your guys' time. We'll patrol these different channels more. Big fans of many of the other sponsors of this course as well. Rabbit Hole, Genie, Index, so on and so forth. So thanks, Andrew, for your time as well from Mirror. And definitely want to figure out more ways to be as supportive for all of you in your DeFi journeys. Thanks.
Thank you, Calvin.